Thank you for choosing to be with us today. We know you have lots of choices in this world that we live in of all this mixed stuff going on. And we're glad you decided to be with us today. Today, I'm going to continue our exploration into gratitude and what the deeper experience of gratitude is beyond feeling grateful for good things we've already experienced in our lives. And Sharon's meditation before the service also talked about the same thing. So I love the alignment. You'd think we did it on purpose, but we didn't. And it's November, so it's Thanksgiving month. And I don't know about you, but one of my earliest memories of Thanksgiving meals were people crammed around the table and then the blessing that we said before we ate. And it may not even be an actual memory from my youth, but instead one I picked up from watching old Hallmark movies or something. And the blessing, thank you for this meal we're about to eat and the loving hands that prepared it. If you think about that statement and the probable picture in your mind, maybe the speaker, usually the eldest, usually male, has been in the house smelling those aromas coming from the kitchen and being chased out of the kitchen a couple times, tempted and attracted because it just smells so good and they want it. Well, what's he grateful for? Something he already knows exists, something he's been smelling for hours, something that maybe he even carved the turkey, something that's finally displayed on the table in front of him. And soon he's going to be able to eat it. And if it was a farming family, like some of my grandparents, members of the family might have even grown some of the food that ended up on the table, or raised the turkey or the pig that ended up being smoked in the smokehouse and converted into a ham. And maybe this wasn't your experience of a Thanksgiving meal growing up at all. I know in other cultures, if the holiday is celebrated, it's a very different thing than the American version of the turkey and the potatoes and the stuffing and all that other stuff. Something entirely different. And maybe Thanksgiving was not a holiday you enjoyed because it was difficult or contentious. And maybe you chose not to participate because the family experience you grew up in was entirely too toxic for you, or it wasn't available for any of a dozen reasons. And maybe your family didn't gather like that. Maybe they were working, or maybe your family just wasn't the Norman Rockwell kind of family. So you can only relate to the image I'm talking about from photographs of other people's Thanksgiving tables or imaginary movies like you've seen on the Hallmark Channel. But I want you to go to that experience of gratitude. It is based on something that's already been given, that's very tangible. You can touch it, you can taste it, you can feel it. The gift has already been presented and received. So last week, Dr. Carmen talked about multiple levels of gratitude. And the bottom layer of her display was gratitude for things we've already received or experiences we've already had. So saying thank you for a gift, it's just good manners, right? What's the difference in your experience as a receiver between the duty and obligation of saying thank you with your mouth and how you feel when you really mean it and when you truly say thank you from your heart? Sometimes we really feel grateful that something's been completed, like a trip to the dentist or going to have some medical tests done and discovering maybe that it wasn't as horrible as you were expecting it to be. And so you're doubly grateful it's behind you. But that felt experience of gratefulness moves the whole thing up a notch, makes it more real, gives it more weight and substance for your life. I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone this week. He's been in business as long as I've known him, and he does essential oils and perfumes and stuff like that. But he and I worked together on a trademark a whole, dozen years ago. And I didn't know, but you have to renew trademarks. They don't stay, they're not continuous. But anyway, he'd been dreading renewing this trademark that he and I had previously worked on before and previously registered, and he had been dreading it for 3 years. When he told me about it this week on the phone, he said it took 3 years and 20 minutes. The 3 years he worried about it and the 20 minutes it actually took to do it. He felt so relieved and grateful that it was finally done. And the only person that was in his way was him. The next level of gratitude that Dr. Carmen talked about last week was gratitude for difficult experiences. And this isn't an easy gratitude to arrive at, frankly, because sometimes life just feels hard and stuff happens that's pretty miserable to experience. A quote from Emerson that you'll recognize: cultivate the habit of being grateful for every good thing that comes to you and give thanks continuously. And because all things have contributed to your advancement, you should include all things in your gratitude. This is the quote I was thinking of when I was listening to David play that last song from Jason Mraz. Look for the good in everyone, look for the good in everything. So what's something in your life that was a miserable or unpleasant or uncomfortable experience, but it gave you gifts for which you can now be grateful? This is the question that's in front of all of us, because we've lived through a challenging years, actually. What are the gratitudes? What are the pieces, the gifts that have come out of this past period of our pandemic that pushed us onto Zoom, so people that are not local or not coming out can join us? What are your experiences of being grateful for things in your life that weren't like awesome when you had them, but they've given you so many things? Part of what makes this such a challenging thing to look at is we have to make a couple of assumptions before we can even begin to approach the topic. We have to remember that we are immortal beings and that this physical, tangible, three-dimensional, five-sensory life experience is not the totality of who we are. It's not the totality of our individual life. Everyone won't agree with me on this, and that's okay. But I wanted some examples from other people who have been able to cultivate gratitude for difficult experiences. So I went to Brother David's website, gratefulness.org, and I found a couple that I'll share with you here. A woman identified as Rose wrote, "I was married many years ago, and to my dismay and shock, after 18 years of marriage, it was over. I didn't see it coming. It was very difficult letting go of the dreams and expectations and practicing forgiveness. And yet the ending of the marriage I now see as one of the greatest gifts I received. It allowed me the freedom to heal, grow, and follow what was true for me. And I truly believe our children are healthier than they would have been if we had stayed together." That's not everybody's experience, but for this woman, Rose, it was true. And then another woman, identified as Monica, shared this story. "Life changed for thousands in an instant. The time the fertilizer storage blew up in the port of Beirut. The stories of those who survived and those who didn't are actually the same story. Chance. The inspiration I feel for all those who came to help and are still helping expands my heart. They are points of light connected to one another to create a shield of positivity over Beirut and over Lebanon. The current situation is dire, political, and economic ruin in the midst of the pandemic. I hold the intention that all people learn from their past to create a future based on compassion, dignity, equanimity, forgiveness, gratitude, humility, integrity, justice, kindness, and love. Many of you, most of you maybe, remember the World Trade Center bombings that happened 20 years ago. You and I have several choices about how we remember, how we tell those events. And I choose to go the path of Fred Rogers. Look for the helpers. There are always helpers. You know those heroic stories just as well as I do. The same is true with our current situation in this pandemic. We can look for and feel immense gratitude for the helpers, all of them. And sometimes even we can be helpers, be that calming presence or voice, be that steadying, supportive, uplifting human. We can tip the wait staff or the person that prepares our to-go food generously. We can thank the mail carriers, the grocery store stockers, or the garbage collectors. We can definitely be grateful for healthcare workers of all kinds. And we can think kindly and speak kindly, regardless of how we were spoken to, and cut other people some slack when we feel like we were dealt with rudely or harshly. It may not be easy, and it may not even be our first reaction or thought, but it is possible. And we can think generously about ourselves when we fail, when we forget, when we screw up, when we react, and continue to work at staying more conscious the next time. Sometimes we are going to be passive consumers, receivers of gratitude, of grateful experiences. And sometimes we're able to be co-creators, recognizing and generating our impressions of gratitude. Both conditions allow us to be intentional receivers and experiencers, and sometimes generators of gratefulness. Regardless, we get to pay attention to our lives and notice what's really going on. One of the stories I heard that came out of daily practice, the daily practice group this week, happened on Friday. I wasn't there, but I heard about it. I don't know what reading was shared that day. I don't even know the whole of the conversation, but one of the gratitude practices that was presented that day was to make a list of worries, troubles, anxieties, and then to see how they could become a source of gratitude. For instance, and I'm only partially making this up, my sister has been worrying that she has had a mouse in her kitchen. Now that would freak me out, and it freaked her out, but the imagination thing that I'm creating is, how could that mouse become a source of gratitude for her? And at the most basic level, she could choose to be grateful that she has a kitchen in a house that she loves and has enjoyed living in for a whole bunch of years. She could also be grateful she has a dog that alerted her to the fact that there was a mouse in her house. Next, she could be grateful that she has help in catching this mouse. Our dad had a mousetrap that she could use. And when she caught the mice, so far there have been 3, she could take them across the street, down the hill, and let them go in a field far away from her kitchen. And they weren't likely to come back because there were many places that were much more happy-making for mice than her kitchen. And I talk about this like it's a thinking practice, but you know and I know that the way we experience our homes, our sanctuaries, is more like a feeling, or it's an awareness. It's a depth of understanding more than it's a thought. So my sister, once she no longer succeeds in trapping mice in her house, which means she's gotten them all out, she will begin again to feel at ease in her home. So consider for a moment, what's one worry or one concern or one anxiety or fear or doubt or unpleasantness that you presently have, that you could decide to look for the good in. something you could decide to see intentionally and reframe it as some gratitude for a successful feeling, for a resolution to this troublesome thing that's going on and taking up space in your brain. How can you take this worry and turn it into some feeling of gratitude for the resolution of this trouble? So one of the blog posts I came across this week, author and storyteller Garrison Keillor wrote about having a cardiac ablation in a New York City hospital. While he was infinitely grateful for the skill of the surgeons and the anesthesiologist who conducted the procedure on him, he was even more grateful for the kindness and care he got from the caregivers in the recovery room and after he was wheeled back into his own room at the hospital. The gentleness they used in moving him from the gurney to his bed and checking his wound, the simple gesture of brushing his hair back out of his face and probably adjusting his pillows, because that's what they do, was more immediately meaningful to him and a cause for gratitude and a reminder that he too could practice kindness and share this generous gift of generosity and gratefulness and appreciation for everyone, not just the people who do the big deal things for us, but even the little tiny things of just being kind, of just, saying thank you and meaning it, of doing a service for us. We always get to decide how we see and perceive what we experience. That is a choice and an opportunity that each one of us has at every moment. And in yesterday's daily morning practice, where I was there, Dr. Daniel Lee Morgan wrote in Guidance for a Spiritual Journey, "You can only see outwardly that which you have first perceived inwardly. If you look with eyes of hate, malice, envy, greed, fear of limitations of any kind, then this is what you will see and what you will experience all around you, no matter where you are or who you may be with. On the other hand, if you see with the eyes of love, peace, joy, compassion, beauty, and I would add gratitude, this is what you will experience in every department of your life. For the law tells us, like attracts like." And from Dr. Ernest Holmes, from the 6-volume Home Study Extension course, and this is important, I'll read it twice. "The ultimate aim of the science of mind and spirit is to develop conscious, compassionate, and independent spiritual beings who usher in the divine kingdom, where planetary peace and unconditional love reign." That's our purpose as practicers of the science of mind and spirit. I'll read it again. "The ultimate aim of the science of mind and spirit is to develop conscious, compassionate, and independent spiritual beings who usher in the divine kingdom, where planetary peace and unconditional love reign." That's a worthy purpose, don't you think? So I want to close with a poem called Thankful. Be Thankful. Author is anonymous. Be thankful you don't already have everything you desire. If you did, what would there be to look forward to? Be thankful when you don't know something, for it gives you the opportunity to learn. Be thankful for those difficult times. During those times you grow. Be thankful for your limitations, because they give you opportunities for improvement. Be thankful for each new challenge, because it will build your strength and character. Be thankful for your mistakes. They will show you valuable lessons. Be thankful when you are tired and weary, because it means you've made a difference. It's easy to be thankful for the good things, A life of rich fulfillment comes to those who are also thankful for the setbacks. Gratitude can turn a negative into a positive. Find a way to be thankful for your troubles, and they can become your blessings. Each of us has the opportunity to practice the possibility of living in gratitude as love, peace, joy, compassion, beauty, harmony, goodness, experiencing our lives from that perspective of gratitude. Do that. Bless yourself and bless us all. Thank you. So I want to roll into the prayer. So grab a hold of something in your life that, whether it's challenging or easy, that you want to feel more grateful for while I speak the words. I remember there's only one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. And that life is my life now. And that life shows up as love and peace and joy and harmony and goodness. That life shows up as kindness and compassion when I choose to remember to act that way. And what's true for me is also true for all beings. Each one of us has the opportunity, has the possibility of living as peace, as love, as joy, as delight. And we get to experience this in ourselves and then radiate this feeling of the presence of the one in and as and through us to ourselves and to all beings with whom we interact. And each one has this opportunity already. And each one has the ability to live as this and to show up as this. And even though the world out there may seem a little out of kilter, we have the opportunity to make a difference by being this light, by being this whole and holy presence, which lives in, as, and through us. So I celebrate this awareness. I celebrate this remembrance. I celebrate this opportunity to be and see and know and do. And I know that it lives in me and in everyone. So breathing in this grateful experience and this awareness, I move into the possibility of saying that sacred yes and participating in life as a joyful, grateful, delightful, delighted being. Knowing this truth for myself and for all, I relax, allow, and let it be. And so it is. Thank you.